There we go. Good morning, everyone. Monica Rivera, team leader for Keller Williams Southeast Los Angeles here. I'm really excited. I know that we are starting today at a new time, right? We're going to be changing the weekly market update to Mondays. We want to go ahead and get that week started off to a powerful start. And we have some other changes in the schedule and calendar that I want you guys to make sure you're paying attention to. So for those of you that are not guests on the call, right, make sure that you're referencing our calendar for our daily training. We've got a lot of new stuff that's on the calendar in addition to like our weekly market update, in addition to our weekly contracts class. We also have the situation room, right? We've got weekly coaching that's going on with Brandy. There's a lot of new stuff. There's the Top Talent Mastermind. I hope some of you guys were on that. This past month, it was absolutely phenomenal with the Burns team, one of the top teams in California, talking about their growth, but also how they come from contribution. And it was a really, really powerful session. This month, it's going to be the rookie panel, which I'm really excited about, right? The top rookie did over 250K in gross commission income, right? In their first year in the business. And we love having an opportunity from learning from agents that are kind of letting us under the hood of their business. So there's going to be a lot we cover today. I know we did last week. I went through kind of the 4 new executives that are coming down the pipeline. You guys know I like to talk about, hey, what's happening in our local market? What is that impact on your business? And then let's really deep dive into what's actually going on in the industry as well. And there was a lot that happened this past week in industry news that I'm going to want to touch on for you guys as well. So we're going to jump straight into the market data. I'm going to try to keep us on time today, since I know this is a little later in the day for us, but let's go ahead and jump right in. Thumbs up if you're able to see my slides. Okay, beautiful, beautiful, awesome. So jumping right in, we're going to go ahead and start looking at the showings. Now, we know we've been watching these showings and we've seen that when we look at what happened in our 2019, right, which is our light blue line, 2020, which is our dark blue line, where obviously we saw some major shifts happening in March. That's about when the shutdown happened. And then we can look at this gold line right here, which is really reminiscent of what is going on now in 2021. Now, we always want to inspect what we expect, right? And so I want you to see this. And obviously one of the things we've been talking about is we have 2 markets that are really going on right now. One where we have a demographic group, right, age 35 plus, that is increased as people age up, also has the lowest rate of unemployment, and makes up 78% of home purchases, that are really striving to take advantage of the low interest rates, get out in the market, and and because of that, and because we also have this kind of other side of limited inventory, we are seeing that our showings have continued to increase. Now we're seeing a little bit of a dip here, right? We're seeing a little bit of a dip here. What just happened this weekend? Yep, I saw it, right?
It was Easter.
Easter, absolutely, right? So anytime we have any sort of holiday, we always want to inspect what we're expecting. Showings go down. We had a lot of people that spent time with their families this weekend. So we always know that 1 week, one slight dip like this does not make a trend, because we want to know what is happening that might have an impact here. The impact here was we just experienced a holiday weekend. A lot of people opted to not necessarily open up their home to showings, or vice versa, to spend time with their family and not go on showings on that Sunday. We can see that dip in showings right over here. Just kind of watching this and seeing kind of the trajectory that we have right over here, my guess is that we'll see this kind of pop back up over the next week. So we always want to just look at that. If we're looking at percentages, we can see that we are still at a higher showing rate than we were at this point. I'm not so much looking at 2020, because obviously in 2020, there's a little bit of an anomaly there. But we are still at a higher showing rate, about 10% higher right, than we were in 2019. So that's kind of what we look at as that baseline there. And this is one of the reasons why we have 3 lines here instead of just the 2, right? We're not looking at just last year because last year is obviously that anomaly. So we're looking at 2019 as a little bit more of that baseline. Let's go ahead and jump right into our inventory and pricing. So starting, of course, with Los Angeles County, which we know, we've been kind of watching the prices here. We had a slight upswing in prices the 2 previous weeks. But again, we are always looking for what is that trend. So overall, over the last 12 weeks, while we do have a price increase, we didn't see another price jump this past week. So our under contract price rate in Los Angeles County, we came in under contract at $702,000 in Los Angeles County within the past week. That's pretty even from where it was at within the previous week, right over here. Sold, we are at 729,000. There was a little bit of an increase here. Again, that is going to be reminiscent of these weeks prior, where we saw a little bit of an increase in our under contract pricing. So we saw homes that sold in Los Angeles County within the last week averaged at about 729,000. And new inventory that came on the market averaged at price point within the past week of $726,000 in Los Angeles County. Looking at the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 weeks prior, this is an area that I really want you guys to pay attention in, because for the first time, we are looking fully here at the fourth quarter of the year versus the first quarter of the year. And we know that when we look at seasonality, when we look at trends in the market, traditionally, there is a dip, right? There is a dip in the fourth and first quarter within our counties, right? Within this more residential county. Now, of course, if you were looking at something like Palm Springs, if you were looking at more of like a vacation type area, this is sometimes reversed, right? Seasonality. But what we look at is we see a little bit of that dip. So we want to pay attention to what's happening from a price perspective, but especially from an inventory perspective, as we kind of look at what's going on, because we should traditionally, right, we see that major dip in the fourth quarter. We see that the first quarter tends to be a little bit lower as well. And then slowly but surely, as we enter into the second quarter, we see everything, sales, under contract, inventory going up. That's going to be one of the things that we're watching over the next couple of weeks. So just accounting for it right now, right, on price, looking within this first quarter of the year compared to the fourth quarter last year, we see that our under contract pricing in Los Angeles County is up 3.1%. That's over a $20,000 difference when we look at under contract pricing. When we look at sold, right, that's up 2.5%. That's a little less than $17,000, right? A little bit less than $17,000 difference. Now, I also want you guys to pay attention. We see a difference in under contract as well as sold. We know sold trails behind the under contract a little bit, right? But this also could be that we're having a couple of price adjustments that are occurring throughout the transaction. So if we see under contracts being higher, right, even though we're kind of watching a trail, so that's not too major of a difference. This is where we kind of watch the long-term trends, and we see that sold across the board for the most part has tended to be slightly lower than under contract. So we see properties going under contract, and all of a sudden, what are we having? We're having negotiation happening when things like appraisals are coming back lower, right? Or these different elements that happen in the midst of a transaction. So we can see that reflected in our trends here. And then new pricing. So we are seeing that new inventory is coming on the market at a higher price point. That is up 4.3%. That is slightly less than $30,000. Meaning that homes right now are being priced approximately $30,000 more in Los Angeles County than they were within the fourth quarter of the year. Looking at our inventory. So looking at our inventory, under contract, we had 1,166 properties that went under contract within Los Angeles County within the last week. 1,283 properties that sold. That was an increase right? Which also tends to happen at month end. We tend to see a little bit of an increase where everybody's trying to get those escrows closed before the month ends. So we see that increase here as well. And then new inventory on the market. This is a dip. So we've seen this dip for the last few weeks, that this kind of continues to decrease a little bit. We saw 1,020 homes come on the market within Los Angeles County within the last week. If we look at the trends overall, right? So we want to look at our trends overall. Here we do see a lot more fluctuation. We see a lot of fluctuation with inventory around the holidays. Under contract is up 25.3%. So we are seeing more properties go under contract. Sold is down, right? Sold is down. And I want you guys to really look at this, right? So we know that the properties, the reason under contract is up, right, is because we're seeing more properties go under contract within the first quarter. But because under contract was down in the fourth quarter of the year, and that whatever went under contract in the fourth quarter within the past few months is what is closing now, that's why we see a dip in sold. Okay, so it's reflective of the trends that were happening in under contract. So we are considering that under contract properties are up 25.3%. I want you guys to know that we're going to see this sold number go up, right? We will see this sold number go up because once these properties are closing. So we'll see that kind of slowly move up over the next couple weeks or so. And then new inventory is up 22.6%. So again, we saw those major dips around the holidays, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas, all of those different things. So even though we can see that on a week over week basis, we are seeing declines in inventory coming on the market, we are seeing an increase overall in Los Angeles County when we're looking at the fourth quarter of the year. So again, always inspect what we're expecting here, especially as we're looking at the fourth and the first quarter of the year, so that we can really understand what some of these trends mean. Jumping on over to Orange County, right? Our highest price point area here, Orange County, we're starting under contract, came in at $835,000 within Orange County within the last week. We can see sold inventory. So this is actually the highest that the sold pricing has been. Possibly a trend. It could be that there was some anomaly properties in there, right? Some luxury properties in there. So we'll keep an eye on that number, right? But we see that the pricing for sold inventory in Orange County was at $890,000 within the last week in Orange County. And new inventory coming on the market, again, a little bit lower than it was within the last week, but overall, we're going to see an increase. So we'll look at that right now. Properties that came on the market in Orange County within the last week averaged at about $829,000. Now, when we start looking at the trends, so again, we're looking at this first quarter of the year compared to the fourth quarter of the year. So the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 prior, we can see that in pricing on under contract, we are up 5.3%. Sold is pretty even, right? It's pretty even there, 5.2%. I would guess that in Orange County, and just by looking at some of what you guys are bringing to the table as well, we're not necessarily having that kind of same fluctuation in terms of as much negotiation happening during the escrow in Orange County. The prices are holding in the OC, right? And we can see that in our under contract and our sold being so even here, okay? And then a new inventory up 5.9%. That's a little less. That's at about $47,000 higher, meaning that properties are being priced about $47K higher within the last 12 weeks than they were to the 12 to 24 prior. Given that number is higher, but it's also a higher price point, right? So we always want to keep an eye on that as well. Now, looking at inventory. So again, I want you to keep an eye on what we're seeing here as well, right? We're seeing under contract, we had 706 properties that went under contract in Orange County last week, 838 properties that sold. New inventory, another dip here, 525 properties that came on the market in Orange County within the last week. When we look at the trends here, under contract is up 29%. So again, seasonality, right? We can see that we had a dip in properties going under contract during the holidays at the end of the year, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And then, and now we're seeing that increase more, the sales are picking up, more properties going under contract. While our sold is down by 8% across the board in Orange County, again, we're going to see that picking up because it's going to be reflective of what is happening with under contract right now, right? Sold is reflective of what went under contract within the past few months. That's where we're going to see increases there as well. And then new inventory, even though that from a week over week perspective here, we are down, right? Even though week over week, we can see that decrease in the red bar here. Overall, inventory is up 31.1% in Orange County within the last 12 weeks. So where I do believe we're going to see this continue to go up. It hasn't kind of caught up to where we probably want it to be overall, right? And yet we're seeing that inventory catch up a little bit more. So right now, again, right, we need to be solving sellers' problems. It's not that they don't want to sell, right? It's not that they don't want to sell. It's some of them need a solution, right? We are problem solvers. Some of them need a solution. Some of them are saying, hey, I want to sell and I want to buy something else. And so I'm nervous about putting my home on the market because I know nobody's wanting to accept contingent offers, or I don't know. I know my property is going to sell because there's so inventory, prices are high. And yet I don't feel comfortable not having somewhere to go. Right? These are going to be the clients that the Bridge Solution program that's part of our KW Seller Solutions that you have access to is going to be extremely, extremely important for you to utilize. Now, jumping over to Riverside County and our pricing trends here, we can see that under contract pricing within the last week in Riverside County was at $450,000. Sold inventory within the last week at $460,000. And new inventory, again, I want you to look at this little red bar here. We're seeing a little bit of an increase, right? This looks to be, with the exception of January 18th week, it seems to be one of the higher weeks here at $480,000, right, within the last week. So properties that came on the market last week in Riverside County, $480,000. Again, we're going to watch to see if this continues to be a trend, because 1 week does not make a trend. Or sometimes it's just a couple higher priced properties that came on the market and are throwing those prices off. So that's where we want to keep an eye on this to see if we see prices continue to kind of fluctuate up. Now, when we look at the last 12 weeks compared to the 12 to 24 prior, we are seeing that under contract pricing is up 1.4%, sold up 2.2%, and new pricing up 4.4%. So we are seeing prices rising a little bit in Riverside County within the last quarter. Looking at the inventory, so again, really similar to what we're seeing, a dip in that inventory at this month end as well. Under contract, 571 properties went under contract in Riverside County within the last week. 581 properties sold in Riverside County within the last week. And 511 properties came on the market within Riverside County within the last week. Overall, we're seeing a lot of similarity here in terms of our inventory trends. Under contract is up 23.1%. So obviously we're seeing more properties selling within the first quarter compared to the fourth quarter of the year due to the holidays, while sold is down 7.6%. Again, that is reflective of what went under contract at the end of last year, right? And so obviously we're going to continue to see that sold number. I expect we're going to see it flip over the next couple of weeks, and we're going to start seeing those increases. And then new inventory coming on the market, even though, again, we're experiencing a little bit of a dip over the last couple of weeks, we can see that overall, when we look at seasonality, there is an increase of 23.3%. So 23.3% more inventory coming on the market within this first quarter of the year compared to fourth quarter last year. Jumping over to our San Bernardino County price trends, right? Under contract, we had properties came under contract. This is our lowest price point county, right? And we can see there was a dip here. This is a pretty significant dip for under contract pricing within the last week. Properties that went under contract in San Bernardino County within the last week held at about $375,000. Sold inventory within the last week hit at 416,000, and new inventory that came on the market averaged at $399,000. When we look at the trends overall, increases across all three, though in under contract, it's not super significant. It's only a 2.2% increase in under contract pricing within those last 12 weeks. So again, not too much of a shift in terms of under contract, which means we won't necessarily see that too much of a shift over the next couple of weeks in terms of our under contract and sold pricing here. Sold pricing at 2.3%, right? At 2.3% increase. That's a little bit less than about $10,000, right? And new inventory pricing is up about 4.4% in San Bernardino County. That accounts for about $17,000, meaning properties that are going, that are coming on the market within the last 12 weeks are being priced about $17,000 higher than they were in the fourth quarter of last year. So again, we're seeing price increases across all 4 counties right now, where we're seeing, and that's reflective of, we're seeing a lot of these multiple offer situations, a lot of this really high demand that's pushing, continuing to kind of push prices up a little bit. This is a conversation that you want to have with your sellers around getting top dollar for their properties right now, right? Around getting top dollar for their properties right now. Now, finally, looking at our San Bernardino County inventory trends. Again, on the red bar, we're seeing a bit of a dip. So across the board, we've seen that in all 4 counties. Here at month end, we saw a little bit of that dip. And yet when we look overall, we can see an increase on that first quarter trend. So under contract, 493 properties went under contract in San Bernardino County last week, 526 properties sold, 465 new properties hit the market within San Bernardino County last week. Our under contract inventory, so again, properties that are going under contract, our sales across the board in all 4 counties are up. In San Bernardino County, it is up 22.1%. This is again reminiscent of fourth quarter seasonality. Obviously, under contract goes down around those holidays. We're seeing that rate of properties going under contract picking up within this first quarter. Sold down 7.3%. And over the next couple weeks, I'm sure we're going to start seeing this flip, right? Because we're seeing under contract go up. Sold is going to follow that same trajectory. And then new inventory coming on the market. Also anticipate that we're going to continue to see this pick up, which is usually what happens in the second quarter of the year. So new inventory coming on the market has increased about 24.6%. You want to talk to your clients about this. Again, right, with the sellers, make sure to utilize the Seller Solutions program to be a problem solver and to give your clients access to different options that might help them make the decision to take advantage of the market as it is. With your buyers, right? With your buyers, you want to take a really good understanding when we look at the pricing trends. You want to see where a property is going under contract, where are they selling at, so you can really get a gauge for what is happening through the transaction. We are still seeing a lot of multiple offer scenarios happening across the board. And this is anything from 6 offers to 20 offers, right? That fluctuation is happening a lot right now. And so I want you guys to keep that in mind. We are still absolutely seeing properties that are going significantly above asking, right? We are also seeing more things get flagged during an appraisal that are not necessarily typical of what gets flagged during an appraisal. So we always want to make sure that we are making an effort to control parts of that appraisal process by making sure that we're preparing our own comparables, right? That we know about where that property is going to price at, so that we know how much is our client potentially going to have to come in different, so that we know if there's any major issues that are being flagged during a transaction, right? That some things are being flagged during underwriting that are not usually typical of being flagged during underwriting. So we're seeing a lot of that come on. We just had a property last week that they did not anticipate it appraising, right? But even on the comps, on running them, they didn't anticipate the difference being so large, right? And that can stop a transaction from moving forward. So you want to make sure that you're having those conversations. Now, aside from that, so a couple things that I wanted to go over on industry news, because you guys know I want to keep you really informed about what's happening. As we all know, the extension on the eviction moratorium has been extended through June. I talked about that last week. I had a lot of people asking questions about what does that mean for my landlords or clients, sellers that have tenants in the property. If they're impacted by COVID, right? Again, your clients cannot evict those tenants. Right now, you want to advise your clients if they want to talk to a real estate attorney or an eviction specialist on what options they have. That is advisable as well, but they cannot evict those tenants. Okay, if it's an impact of COVID, so that's really important to kind of keep an eye on as well. So because we're definitely getting a lot of questions, a lot of sellers that are starting to pop up, and I'm seeing the questions. So I want you guys to know, because these are clients that you can be reaching out to, right? You want to make sure if you have those absentee owners within your database, or that's an area that you're kind of pursuing, that these are questions that are coming up, right? These are definitely, they're definitely in a situation, and a lot of these absentee owners are in a situation where, you know, they thought this was going to go on for a year, and now here we are over a year, right? Here we are, and it's continued on. Especially as well, the other absentee owners you want to have conversations with are those that may be inherited properties, right? Within the last few months, especially with Proposition 19 coming into effect in February, where they may be having some sort of reassessment on their taxes. So taxes potentially increasing, and tenants that maybe they can't remove from the property that may or may not be paying rent. So that's going to be a great kind of conversation to have with those clients as well. In the technology side, so there was a lot of stuff that happened this past week, right? One of those being the Compass IPO. So I don't know how many of you are following kind of what's happening in the industry as well. You know, these are things that we look at, because what that greater impact is going to be on the real estate industry as a whole. One of the things that we've seen was Compass IPO. They lowered the price estimate, and it opened higher when they went public. And so that's going to be something that we'll keep an eye on. It's really interesting, considering that they still have a massive amount of debt, right, as a company, and yet that valuation is there. One of the other things is they've been said to be a extremely fast growing company, the only company that seems to be outpacing them right now in terms of that sort of growth has been us. So it's interesting to kind of see that. I always like to monitor kind of what's happening with different, you know, real estate companies. The other thing that was really interesting was CoStar. So you guys know that CoStar, right, was really looking at making an acquisition of RentPath. Unfortunately, the FTC got involved, and CoStar RentPath deal fell through. CoStar still had to pay, because of that deal that kind of fell through, they still had to pay $52 million, right? They also were attempting to acquire CoreLogic. They pulled out of that deal, but it's interesting to monitor that CoStar, as what is considered a commercial, like multiple listing service, a highly commercial product and offering and platform, that they are going after some of what would be considered a little bit more of this residential product. Again, it comes down to the data, right? It really comes down to the data. RentPath, however, was still acquired. So RentPath was acquired by Redfin. That deal was finalized. It was a $608 million acquisition. What's really interesting on this, I really want you guys to understand that RentPath, when we think of a company like RentPath, or even ShowingTime, we're watching, you know, the Zillow ShowingTime kind of deal still play out right now, is that it's not just that one company, right? It's not just that one piece. RentPath is a parent platform, or a parent company of ApartmentGuide.com, Rent.com, Rentals.com, and Lovely, right? A lot of these very interesting kind of property management, rental listing websites, things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how they partner. From my understanding, their goal is to make sure that RentPath's rental product or rent listings is available on the Redfin site by 2022. So we look at these different acquisitions and how that plays out. In my opinion, this is a strategy on leads, right? So obviously these rental platforms have rental leads, right? Those are also potentially can be future buyers, but also you capture a different type of clientele when you're looking at a product like this. You also, in some of these products, there's a premium to list your rental on these products, right? You're uppaying. So that creates another revenue source that Redfin is looking at monopolizing on. So that's going to be really interesting to kind of watch that acquisition and that kind of, finalized piece as well. I know there's not much new news coming out right now in terms of what is happening with the Zillow ShowingTime acquisition right now, with the exception of the fact that there is another ShowingTime competitor that has made a little bit more news on the market. That competitor is called Insta Showing, right? That competitor is called Insta Showing. So very similar product to what is happening from a, what's happening within that showing type product. And yet what's very interesting about this is there are 4 Zillow veterans. So those that were kind of investors or involved in Zillow, right, at one point or another, that are some of the earlier investors of a round of funding of $1.5 million, right? Round of funding that was just invested into ShowingTime. These things seem a little bit small, and it's what's that overall kind of impact that we see in the industry, right? It's that piece that's so big. It's what does this look like, not right now, but in a couple years, because there's a couple different ideas of what happens within real estate, right? One is, hey, are these technology companies going to come and, take over the job of the real estate agent and eliminate the real estate agent? Now, I'll be honest, we don't believe that, right? I don't believe that that's 100% possible. I think that technology can empower you to deepen your relationship. There's a secondary camp, right? Which that secondary camp is saying, hey, we believe that the relationship is the biggest competitive advantage that you have. And that the relationship you have with your client is your currency within the real estate industry, right? Here's the thing. And by the way, we are in that camp, right? We are in that camp. But there's subsets of that camp. There are subsets that say, hey, we believe the relationship is the only thing that matters. And that's not true, right? We believe the relationship is the biggest competitive advantage you have. And yet in order to maximize and deepen that relationship, you do need to be empowered and enabled by technology. Technology is a tool to allow you to get deeper with more people. That's what technology allows you to do. And technology, there's 2 types of technology. There's technology that allows you to get deeper, but is owned by somebody else, right? That maybe frees up your time, like ShowingTime, right? As a product that can potentially free up your time. And yet, guess what? If you don't own that data, then at any point in history, and this was from Zillow's executive board themselves, at any point, what is to stop any technology company from turning around and becoming your competitor? Right? Zillow said that directly to Gary Keller. Right? Now, the only way to stop that is when you own the technology that keeps you at the center of the transaction, right? Keeps the agent at the center of the transaction. And that's really what we strive to do. That's the camp that we're in. And that's why when we look at these different acquisitions that are coming on, right, is all of a sudden RentPath, apartments.com, these kind of independent sites that had nothing to do with the agent, guess what? They're being pulled into that real estate industry with Redfin. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of watch how this plays out with this new acquisition. I'm also interested to see who kind of closes out that deal of CoreLogic, because I know that that's a strong data source as well that we want to keep an eye on. So a lot of information today, a couple things on the calendar. So this Friday, right? This Friday, I will be doing in person. We're going to be going, really doing kind of more of an in-person workshop. I will make sure that it's streamed on Zoom for those of you that are not comfortable kind of coming in yet. And you guys know I like writing on the whiteboard and everything as well. So we will have more of an in-person workshop, really going over understanding that high-level consumer experience and how to keep the agent at the center of the transaction always, right? It's a big part of that business piece as well. So that'll be this Friday at noon. Feel free to bring your lunch, my friends, as well. And then we've got, of course, our contracts class that are continuing on the calendar. We've got some awesome training coming up by Brandy. I mentioned the rookie panel that's going to be coming up this month as well. So a lot of stuff. Make sure you're looking at our calendar. If you're a guest and want to be invited to anything, just let us know. We are always more than happy to kind of open up some of those trainings as well. Miss Jennifer, I saw you come off mute. Did you have a question, my friend?
Nope. Sorry, it was by accident.
Oh, no worries. Awesome. Okay, with that, I hope you guys, I kept you 10 minutes more. I'm really working on getting our time set, but there's so much information coming every single week that I want to make sure that you guys have those big updates as well. So with that, I hope you guys have an absolutely blessed rest of your day. The one thing that I want to end on, and it's because I heard this quote said right before this call, and it's from a book called The Alchemist. Right. The Alchemist is one of my personal favorite books. I read it every single year. And so this quote was said on the last call that I was on this morning with KWI leadership with Carl Lieber, with Jay Papazan, kind of the leaders of KW. He said in the book, everyone believes the world's greatest lie, says the mysterious old man. What is the world's greatest lie? The little boy asked. The man replies, it's this, that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. That's the world's greatest lie. I'm going to repeat that last part. It is this, that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. That is the world's greatest lie, right? As we watch what's happening out in the industry, it is very easy to step into we have no control of what's happening. Right. Well, we have no control of how the industry is changing. Well, we have no control over, our career trajectory and what's happening. And yet we have control over how we choose to respond, how we choose to protect our databases, how we choose to grow our business, how we choose to deepen the relationships that we have with our clients and really grow our data bank based on coming from contribution with our clients. That we will always have control of. So with that, I hope you all have an absolutely amazing rest of your day.